So now we're coming to the point where we want to finalize our logo. So I went ahead and I played with the type a little bit. I changed it to this type right here for the top. This is a sans serif or a serif font. I wanted to kind of add a little bit of an elegance to the logo and a professionalism. And I've also changed this to League Spartan. Because the other one was a condensed font, and that means everything is a little bit tighter and a little bit more squish looking. So this kind of helps the characters breathe a little bit. So I just spent another 10 minutes playing around with font. And as I said before, you probably spend the most time on font than you do anything in the logo design process. So let's move on to the fun part, which is selecting a color palette and kind of creating a mood board to help us with our inspiration for colors. So how do we do that? Well, there's an amazing website called color.adobe.com, and this is a fantastic free to use website, and you can go on here and you're instantly greeted with a color wheel which you can kind of play around with. So let's kind of move this stuff around. You can kind of figure out what kind of colors you want. There's different color selections, so if you know a little bit of color theory, I'm not going to go in too much detail as you guys are do-it-yourselfers and business owners and kind of wanting to get this branding process done. We don't want to get too bogged down into details about design, but just kind of some little things like the triad. As you know, complementary colors tend to be, those are the Christmas colors, those are complementary. See, compound shades, analogous, those are close on the color wheel. So they're going to have kind of within the same shade or kind of really close together, and those can look nice. But this is really where I think this website shines. So let's go to Explore, and you can filter these by popular or most used or random. But you can find some amazing color palettes that you can kind of select that are pre-selected. So you can kind of scroll through here. If there's any kind of color palette you think would match really well with your brand, this one kind of really pops out at me. So I'm going to go Info, find out more about this particular color palette. So that's a nice color palette. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. That's really nice. Let's see if it gives me a chance to click on it. Edit. Okay, so let's go down to the one I like, which is right. Where was it? It disappeared. Let me click on another one I like. Let's kind of go, oh, I like these bolder colors right here. That'll really pop out amongst a lot of other logos. So let's go to Edit. Okay, so fantastic. So this is a chance where I get to kind of tweak the colors a little bit to make them my own. So if I want to tweak this one, I can just kind of make it darker, make it more of a darker orange complement. And what's great about having at least 5 colors in your color palette or your brand palette is you have more availability and flexibility with colors. So we're doing the logo, so we may only use 1 or 2 colors, but when you start to extend your brand out to letterheads, business cards, social media, you're going to want to have a wider palette of colors to choose from depending on what you're trying to do. So I like to have like a really bright, vivid color to be my call to action. So my buy now buttons and those type of things. Book now buttons, I like to have a strong, so maybe that could be the orange, and I like to have some subtle colors for backgrounds so that they're not too bright and vivid. So just having, this is a really nice color palette because it's so wide. It's got the brights, it's got some cools. There's a lot of variety with this. So what do I do with these colors? How do I get those in Canva? There's something called a hex code, which is right down here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. This is a hex code, so it's kind of your 6-digit code that kind of tells the web kind of what color that is. So they all have different numbers, and this is the code that you will copy and paste and bring into Canva. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now with this color, and then we're going to explore some more different color options, but kind of showing you how to do this. So let's go ahead and select this color. So I want to bring this color palette into Canva. So I'm copying and pasting this 2C8693. And I'm going to bring that into Canva. I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to add a document color. And look, right there is where I can just paste it. And there's that color. It's now added as an option, and I can keep doing that for the rest of the other colors. So that's kind of how you would bring in your color palettes. You can find hex codes anywhere. You don't have to use Adobe. You can research hex code colors and find color palettes you like there. So another really neat thing, and I'm going to take a screenshot of this because I might actually end up using this color for my logo design. But let's keep looking at some other options. So you can go by most popular, most used, find out what people are really using. Wow, that is really bright and vivid, but that could work for what your business is going for. That's really awesome for like call to actions. You have a nice bright color. You have some cool tones that you can use for background elements that you don't want to stand out. So that has a nice variety in it. So just kind of going through my process of how do you pick colors for a brand. That's a big deal. This is huge because it's not just for the logo now. We're now talking about the entire branding package and the colors that you're going to use for backgrounds and letterheads. This is a very critical point that we're at in the branding process. So there's some that may not work. So that one, it just depends. You guys are going to have a wide variety of businesses. So this is another thing. If you feel like, I don't know how to just pick one of these, they're all great. How do I pick one? We can do another thing. And you can actually import an image and be able to select the colors in the image. So if there's an image out there that you feel inspired by, that feels like represents your brand, or you really love the colors, this is a great option to do. I'm on a website called pexels.com, and I love this website for finding not only free stock photography to use, but also finding inspirational photos so I can build my mood board and find some color inspiration for my branded colors. So I'm going to just kind of scroll through just kind of the home page and see if there's any photos I feel like I resonate with personally since this is a personal brand, just kind of picking things I like, colors I like. There could be a method to your madness, so to speak. So you may want to have certain types of colors that you derive from. This is a very personal journey that you're going to go through to develop your branded colors. So I'm just kind of picking things. I really like this mint kind of green color, so I'm just going to go ahead and download it. And I'm going to do that with a series of different photos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back into Canva and create a little gallery mood board that I can then put it back on the Adobe Color website, be able to pick some colors off of that. So I really like that blue. Let's go ahead and download it. Why not? So this is going to be really up to your business. I really like that bold orange is like a call to action. Like a really nice strong color I can use for buttons and things I want to highlight. I really love this. I'm really gravitated toward this green. So I'm just quickly kind of downloading some photos for the sake of time. But I'd probably spend a good hour kind of scouring. Ooh, look at those dark greens. I have a feeling my brand might include greens. Just kind of a hunch. And I really love golds and oranges too. So now that I'm starting to kind of get an idea, let me get that green. Because it's really good to have logo or branded colors that have more than one main color. I mean, there's some brands out there like Coca-Cola that have their one red color, and they get away with it because they also pair it with black. They also pair it with white. They have some other color options they can do, but I find it useful to have, okay, so let's say I want to do greens. I'm really gravitated toward greens. Let's find a complementary color to greens. So what if I popped back in? This is just on a whim. I'm going to go back into my color wheel here on color.adobe.com. And I'm going to see, let's see if I can drag this back into the frame. Complementary colors. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this complementary. So what's a complementary color to green? So let's go, right now it's red, but green has a wide kind of variety of shades. So I'm going to kind of spin this wheel till I get to kind of that gold color. Or actually, you know what? Instead of complementary, it might be an analogous color. I take that back. So I'm going to go to analogous. So these are colors that are close together on the color wheel, and they tend to kind of complement each other that way. Not to be confused with complement colors. So I'm going to kind of drag this over toward the greens. And I'm going to kind of drag it till I start to see kind of golds too. So right around here. Of course, you can spread these out as much as you want. They don't have to be super, super tight. So that would be a very hard palette to work with. You don't have a lot of variety. You just spread it out a little bit more. I'm just dragging my mouse down and you're getting kind of more of a nice palette. So there's that mint color I like. And look right there, there's kind of that gold burnt orange color that I was kind of thinking about too. So going to be looking for colors like that. So let me go back and go ahead and type in like gold. Kind of see what comes up, see if there's any, or maybe even orange. So it's kind of going through the golds. That could be a nice color. The sun. Ooh, I love these leaves. So I'm just going to download those. Probably find some oranges and gold from there. This is also a beautiful gold color, so I'm going to download that photo. So I'm going to spend another 20 minutes or so kind of sourcing some photos I like, and then I'll see you right back into Canva. Alright, so I'm back in Canva. Actually went to the home page. I'm going to start kind of a new file for my mood board. So I'm going to kind of pick anything here. Let's just click on a poster. It's just going to load a new file, a new blank file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Elements, and I'm going to go down and go to Grids. So it's Elements, All, Grids. Go ahead and click on All. And for a mood board, I'd probably do around 6 to 8 photos. So I just need to find one that has about 6 or 8 photo places that I can drag. So perhaps this one, this is just a drag and drop situation. Probably need a little bit more than that. So let's keep looking. The further down you go, the more placements that you have. So let's see, perhaps this one could work. I might need one more photo option. So let's keep scrolling down till we find something we like. So that has 6 and that has 5. So I think 6 photos is about right. Oh, this one's perfect. Okay, so that was easy. I'm just going to make it a square just to make it easy for us. So I need to upload my Pexel photos I downloaded. So I'm going to go down to Uploads. And I went ahead and did that. I just uploaded all these images. It took a few minutes. So I'm going to just drag and drop ones that I like. So it's dragging and dropping. So I really like those greens. I like the orange. And let's see, I think that's all of them. I kind of like these blues, but I'm not seeing blue and green quite jiving the way I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. And with photos, I'm just going to double click this photo right here. It's going to give me a chance to crop it a little bit. So I'm just going to get that's the orange that I really want. So I don't want to be distracted by the person. Same here, I'm just going to double click. Just really interested in the colors, not really interested in the other details. So just kind of dragging it in, kind of get those colors done. And let's zoom in on this leaf a little bit so I can select it a little better. So there's kind of my color inspiration so far. So how do I get this to color.adobe? I can simply go up here to download, and I can download as a JPEG. That's totally fine. Just go ahead and download that. This is going to download a simple JPEG. I'm going to pop back into my color.adobe.com, and we're going to go to import image up here at the top. And I'm just going to go to downloads and go ahead and pop that in there whenever that's done downloading. So I loaded my image, and it may ask you to log in to be able to save the theme, but that's okay. We don't really need to save the theme, so you can just ignore that message. You should be able to not have to log in to utilize this feature. So here's the image, and what we can do now is we can kind of drag some of these little areas right here and go ahead and create our color palette. So let's go ahead and find kind of the color we like here. And you can kind of see it changing. Go ahead and scroll this down. You see it on the bottom right changing as I do this. So I'm going to do kind of that mint green. Could kind of move this around. And we could tweak these after we select them as well, so we don't have to get stuck with whatever's on the photo. Let's do a little bit brighter. Let's see, where would the brightness be? Probably right here by the eye. Maybe down here. Ooh, there we go. And then we have this orange, which I like. And then we can do, let's see, kind of maybe a darker orange. Maybe I could find that in the leaves. Kind of get that burnt kind of dark gold color that I was looking for earlier. And that might be a color I need to manually tweak. Let me do that. Let's just kind of get something close right there. And that might be, let's do something a little more muted. Let me go down. And so that orange can be our bright call to action color. I'm trying to find something that pairs well with this kind of mint green. So I'm really liking this color. I'm feeling happy about those selections. Let me see if I can't drag. You can drag and drop these in any order you'd like. So if you want to do your cooler colors together, so maybe right about there. There's all my cool colors on the left and my warm tones on the right. It kind of helps us gauge whether we like that. So that's kind of a blue. That's not really, I actually kind of liked this part of the photo, this kind of green. Ooh, look at that. It's a kind of a beautiful muted, kind of a brown, but it has some green elements to it. Oh, and I also have my moss. Ooh, look how rich. Picking colors can be one of the hardest things you do because there's a lot of great color combinations out there. There's not a right or wrong. There's some that work better than others, but and being a designer for so many years, I've learned that the wider breadth of color selections, the better. So this is a wide variety. I got cool tones. I got warms on the right, cools on the left. I have darker colors. I also have lighter colors. So this will be a very adaptable template. And this will be my bright kind of call to action color, which I think I might even tweak a little bit. It'll let me go ahead and tweak that. So I clicked back on the color wheel. If you are not an Adobe subscriber, you can't go back to import image. So once you click over to color wheel, you kind of finalize those color selections. Go ahead and click on color wheel and it's going to import it in here. And so now we can kind of tweak the colors a little bit. So I did make that a little bit of a darker green. So now I have kind of 2 shades of green, 3 shades of green, and kind of those 2 kind of warm colors. So you kind of have 2 different colors, but you have a couple of different shade variations of each. So you can go and kind of tweak it just a little bit. I'm going to increase the brightness on my screen so I can really be able to see this. I'm going to make it a nice dark rich color. Ooh, adding a little bit of blue is nice. Kind of complements the mint. So I just added a little bit of blue there. Beautiful. And I might want to do the same thing here so we can have a little bit of a consistency among those 3 green colors, that there's just like a little bit of blue in each. So that has blue as well. So let's tweak this kind of orange, burnt orange color. I want it to be a little more gold. So sometimes you want to add a little bit more green to oranges to kind of bring out more of a gold element. So I'm just increasing the green. Just kind of tweaking it here. But this is my big call to action color, kind of what I'm going to use for buttons. So I really need to make sure it remains kind of bold. This could be more of my burnt color. Maybe this can add a little more green to it, or warm tones. This is where it's just going to depend on your eye for color and what works well. And as you're doing this, you're kind of seeing how it relates to the color wheel as well. So you're kind of seeing these are the 5 points of my color palette. You can see how they're more analogous in nature because they're close on the color wheel, as opposed to complementary, which would be right across from each other. But it's close. It's kind of in between complementary and analogous. That's fine. I mean, it's really how it looks. In the end, there's a science to the color wheel, but there's also a feeling. Do I like these colors together? I feel pretty confident. I just want to tweak this just a little more, maybe a little less red. See, now we're getting into the kind of deep gold colors. There we go. Feeling a little bit better. Maybe a little darker. So there's my color palette. Just derived from colors that I personally like. This is my personal brand. If you're doing a company, maybe a healthcare company, you may want to choose some blues. There's a whole emotion to color as well. Blues are stability. Greens are used by banks, but also blues. You'll see a lot of banks doing cool colors, which are kind of the green and blue. You'll see a lot of social media. They'll kind of use the blue to the really bright pinks and oranges. and you don't see a whole lot of companies use yellow. That's actually the least used color. It actually exudes an emotion of energy and happiness and excitement. So, but it's a hard color to work with because it can be so light. Sometimes it's hard to stand out among white color. So that might be why they don't use a lot of yellow. It's just a hard color to work with. But that you may want to use yellow. There's some great examples of yellow being used in brands. It's just not a very frequently used color, along with pink. So there you go. There's just kind of a quick little color theory, quick little branded color theme. I take screenshots just in case somehow the Adobe website crashed and I lost my colors. Just like to take a screenshot just to have these hex code numbers. And I can bring that screenshot in and type them in manually. Or I could just copy and paste each one and a new color palette. So I'm going to go back into Canva. Let's go back. There's actually a little option here called Your Brand. This is just on the Canva homepage. And you can import your branded colors here, and you could be able to access that on any new project you start instead of having to do it with each new project. So this is key if you're going to be using Canva. So Your Brand, I'm going to add my colors. So I copied and pasted that first color. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I get all 5 loaded in. Do my third one. I'm really liking those greens. Okay. Oh, I didn't import that. That might have been a good photo to use for my gold, but I already kind of selected my color. So let's do the gold color. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I no longer need that. And my last color, I need my darker orange. Okay, so there's my color palette. And I wonder if I can drag, it's going to change all my colors up here, which I'm not a huge fan of. That's okay. You can also choose fonts as well. And once we choose our logo, whatever font is ending up being what I'm using in my logo, I'm going to go back into this Your Brand, and I'm going to change those fonts here so that you don't have to keep figuring out loading your fonts with each new project. It's already loaded with every project you start with Canva. Same thing with logos. Once I get my logo done, I can go ahead and pop that in here so you can have access to your logo with each one. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. I have my colors loaded, and what I also did is, since I'm using my own icon that I did in Illustrator, I just went in Illustrator and I kind of customized the colors a little bit on my M. If you purchased a symbol, maybe there's a chance where you can kind of edit those. If you're in Canva and you used an icon, let's just use kind of a generic icon as an illustration. Let's do icon. Let's say I used this this little icon right here. You'll also be able to edit the colors on those. So you go down, now we have this new brand colors line item that we just set up. So now you have access to those with each project that you do. So that's a really handy kind of tool. So let's say I want to make that gold and then make this green. You can do that. So that's kind of how you edit the colors. What I did, just kind of showing you, this may not be what you do if you're not in the Illustrator, but I dragged in a screenshot of my color palette, and I just used the eyedropper tool to kind of develop 2 different versions, a green and an orange. Not sure which one I want, or if I want both, or if I don't want any. So we're going to go test that out. And if you purchased a symbol, maybe there's a chance for you to be able to modify that. Maybe they provided lots of different color options for you in PNGs, so you're not stuck with one color of the PNG purchased. So it all depends on what you purchased if you did go that route. So let's go back, and let me go back to my graphics that I uploaded. So here's the 2 new M's. So I'm just going to bring that in and bring this one in. I'm just doing the controls and making it smaller. So now I like the idea of having a black and white version. You should always have a black and white version of anything you do. So that's definitely handy. So I can just kind of keep that out here. But let's play around with color. So let's go ahead and zoom in. We don't need that anymore. And let's see what looks good. So let's try orange. And so let's try to bring that orange out. We could do the darker deep orange. We can bring out the green. We don't have to use every color in the logo. It's good to use maybe one, but it's not a requirement to use all of them. So that could be an option. Maybe this little bar is a different color. Maybe that's mint green. So I kind of like sticking with one color for the logo because the green and the orange together, they'd look good more in a layout, but maybe too much for a logo. But let's just continue to play around with what works well. Let's do the mint. I like the idea of keeping one side one color and the other side the other color. And let's make that bar a neutral gray color, just so it's not competing. It needs to be deeper, I think, a deeper, darker color. So let's see, here's my brand color. So I have the really deep, or kind of the, so that's an option. And this is a great way to test your palette. You may need to tweak your palette when you start applying to your logo and you're not quite sure about it. You might need to go back and revise your palette a little bit. Because I like the green, I like the gold, but do I like the green and the gold like put together? I'm starting to see some challenges. So this is just the honest, raw process of developing a brand. It has to work on all levels. It can't just look great in isolation. So I'm going to continue to tweak with this for about 5 to 10 minutes and see what I come up with. And if I need to tweak the color palette a little bit to kind of find something I think goes better together, then I'm going to do that. So I'll be right back. So I decided to go back to my brand, right here, your brand on the left column. And I did decide to tweak the color palette just a little bit. I thought the dark brown wasn't quite working with the dark green, so I decided to eliminate that color. And I did add a couple of intermediate colors between the dark and the light, just to kind of give me a fourth color, because I kind of was thinking that was too dark for the logo, and I wasn't wanting something too light, so I just kind of came up with another intermediate shade. And I also have some neutral colors, which I think is important to have a couple of those, especially when you're wanting something light but also not competing, and neutral. So I added kind of a neutral kind of cream and a kind of a neutral green, which kind of goes with this. So that's kind of how I tweaked my palette a little bit, and that's very natural, very normal for you to need to do that. So let's go back to my logo design and see how we can apply those colors. Okay, so let's go up to the top part here. And let's try a couple of these. Try a couple of the neutrals, which looks really nice actually. Yeah, that's an option. Go back and do this other neutral. And I might need to come back with another darker gray. And so that's very easy to do. So I'm just going to go back to home, back to my brand, and let's add a darker gray. So here's what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and select this kind of neutral, kind of a cream gray, kind of got like it's a warm tone gray. I'm going to copy this hex code, create a new one. So now it's that same shade, and I'm just going to go drag this and make it darker right about there. So now it's kind of a slate gray. Okay, so there I added yet another color. It's okay to have more than 5. That's great. It's good to have a wide palette. So let's go back. So you're getting to see my totally raw process. This is exactly what I would do. Nothing's cut. There's not a lot of editing going on here. This is really what happens in this process. So now I'm going to go to that darker shade, which I believe was the slate. And that's starting to look great. And you know why? Because I think the green and the orange, they were really fighting with each other. And I think since I kind of picked the green and decided to do a neutral color to pair with it, you're not having this fighting going on between the colors. You're kind of, the green is winning and the other part is subtle, and it works a little bit better. So let's make this the darker shade. There we go. I'm not sure if I need that little divider line or not. Maybe it was unnecessary. It's really up to you. But I could start to see this really come along. So let's kind of tweak this logo as well. I like the neutral and the orange, and I also like the green and the neutral, but not the orange and the green together. So that's definitely a theme there. So that's an option. This is a second option. Of course, we don't have to do a color for our M. We don't even have to do the M period. So we're still kind of developing that. We could do a pop of color here. Let me ungroup that and do, I love that mint color. I wish I could use that. Oh, I just did. There we go. There's a mint color, and then you have kind of a neutral color for the M. Let's try the bold orange. That looks good. I don't know, it's a toughie. So I'm going to kind of think about this for a little bit. And sometimes this is what I do, is I go ahead and start to work on something like a letterhead or a business card, so I can start to see how this brand is going to start to extend. And that really helps me kind of settle on a final logo design, because this is just a logo. We need to do the style, there's graphic elements, there's a lot of different things we need to do when we develop our marketing materials. It's going to be more than just the logo. There's a whole look, there's angles, there's elements, there's background, textures that we need to also start to solidify in this process. So right now I'm going to leave it at these three. I'm going to tweak them, kind of get maybe down to 2 logos, and then I'm going to try them both out on our first marketing material, which is going to be, let's do a business card. So if we do a business card, I can start to go ahead and pick my final logo during that process.